Ain't gonna let nobody know it. Turn me round, turn me round, turn me round. Ain't gonna let nobody know it. Turn me round, keep on walking, yeah, keep on talking, marching up the freedom day.
In 1969, the Black Organization of Students explored a new form of revolt, a takeover, which led to a protest in Conklin Hall on Rutgers' Newark campus. Black students encountered social injustice, which through the activism of the BOS they hoped to eradicate. The takeover allowed the exchange of proposals that opened the door for black students of the university. Conklin Hall, on the Rutgers University campus, located in Newark, New Jersey, was ambushed by over 300 African American students fighting for their educational rights. At the time, it was becoming extremely popular for blacks to protest for the needs they felt they deserved. The protests began when Rutgers' Newark Black Organization of Students, known as the BOS, submitted a list of demands to Malcolm Talbot, the campus's top administrator. The demands included enrolling more minority students and hiring more minority professors. The Black Organization of Students' second demand states, Black students should be employed on a work-study basis in the admissions office to implement the recruitment of black students. Recent policies have encouraged off-campus work-study jobs in the community. The university's response to the Black Organization of Students' demand was the request by BOS that black students be employed on a work-study basis in the admissions office to implement the recruitment of black students is one that should cause no problem. This can and will be done. Although the university had answered some of their demands, they were still frustrated by the administration's rejection to the majority of their demands. Members of the BOS marched into the campus's main classroom building at 6:30 a.m., kicked out the security guard, and chained the doors. Stocked with food and water, nearly 24 protesters said they would remain in Conklin Hall until their demands were met. They unfurled a banner from the roof declaring the building Liberation Hall. In an interview of Professor Clement Alexander Price, he furthermore explains the entire ordeal.
The black students who liberated Conklin Hall, and I'm speaking to you from Conklin Hall, they were fundamentally ill at ease with the kind of environment they found themselves in at Rutgers in Newark. There were very few black students, first and foremost, and there were very few members of the faculty of color. In fact, there may have been only one minority member of the faculty in the fall and winter of 1969. So they took over this building as a way to dramatize, to symbolize their discontent at what was Rutgers Newark at that time as a learning environment.
The students encountered and overcame discriminating obstacles. Previous to the takeover, the students weren't given equal education compared to the non-colored students. There weren't any African Americans enrolled in the staff, and the black students were considered a small percentage of the school's population. In an article called Does Rutgers Have the Right to Newark?, written by Joe Brown, it states, a student population of over 3,000, less than 5% black, in a city which is 65% black, in a county fast becoming 40% black. This is totally disgraceful and unacceptable. Rutgers should and must be no less than 30% black. A start in this direction would be the admittance of at least 500 black students for the 1969 to 1970 school year. On the occurrence of the takeover, the majority of white students were against the black students. They just wanted to get into their school that they paid for and didn't feel the need to have black students inducted into their school. In the same article written by Joe Brown, he claims, once black students are admitted to Rutgers, our troubles have just begun. Very little of our training addresses itself to our needs and those of our people. We are faced with token black faculty and administrators. The advisory system is quite incapable of giving black students the kind of assistance we need. White advisors cannot possibly understand the problems of black students. The overall campus atmosphere is guaranteed to turn black cats off. Take, for example, the Observer article which necessitates the special edition, or the writing found on bathroom walls around campus. Many black students believed that white students and staff wouldn't understand their way of life. In fact, the BOS had some conflict with some of the current faculty. In the book by Richard P. McCormick, he provides the entire length of the BOS demands. That BOS members be included in this committee of review. That as members of the university's constituency, black students have a right to be a part of this committee. That there be an immediate removal of admissions director Robert Swab and his assistant C.T. Miller. Admissions figures announced by Mr. Swab reveal his inefficiencies as admissions director. Mr. Swab has failed to sufficiently comb black high schools for applicants from ghetto areas. The attitudes of Mr. Swab and Mr. Miller are basically prejudiced, as is evidenced by their refusals to implement sincere programs to channel black students. Mr. Miller's biased attitude has been made apparent through his tendencies to be extremely hostile, derogatory, and arrogant in dealing with black applicants. The Black Organization of Students explored a new form of rebellion. After the dispute with the Rutgers University executives, many schools in different locations began their fight for freedom. For example, in the article titled "A Campus Takeover That Symbolized an Era of Change," written by George Lowry. 40 years ago, this Saturday, on April 18, 1969, 11 fire alarms rang out across the Cornell campus. At 3 a.m., a burning cross was discovered outside Worry House, a cooperative for black women students. The following morning, members of the Afro-American Society occupied Willard Straight Hall to protest Cornell's perceived racism, its judicial system, and its slow progress in establishing a Black Studies program. The events that were prompt decades of social, cultural, and political change on campus were in play. Only days before the Straight Takeover, on April 10, 1969, the Cornell administration had approved $240,000 to create an Afro-American Studies Center, and a director, James Turner, had been identified months later. The students wanted an autonomous program. They wanted the center to have control of its own destiny, said Eric Ackrey, librarian at the Africana Studies and Research Center. But change did come even more quickly after the takeover. You now have recognition that other people need to be studied. Women, gays and lesbians, Latinos, Asian Americans, and all of that as an outgrowth of the Black Studies movement, said Ackrey. The act of the students at Conklin Hall sparked a new hunger for justice within these African American teens all around America. To conclude, an article titled "Rutgers Newark Marks 40th Anniversary of Conklin Hall Takeover," written by Kelly Hayboer, states, "You are heroes," said Rutgers University President Richard McCormick. "You're back where it all began. We are deeply proud of you." Rutgers marked the 40th anniversary of the student takeover today with a series of emotion-filled speeches, panels, and events acknowledging the lasting impact of the tense 72-hour standoff at Conklin Hall. The takeover is credited with sparking changes at Rutgers that ended racist policies and boosted minority enrollment on campuses across New Jersey. Today, Rutgers Newark ranks as the most racially diverse public university campus in the nation.
One day, when the glory comes,